What is up, addicts? Welcome back to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, A.J. Brown, heading into his sophomore season. Can we expect him to continue the massive tear that he was on in 2019? Let's discuss. Now, for those of you that had A.J. Brown last year, remember what he did for you over the back half of that season, going along the lines with Ryan Tannehill and doing phenomenal work for fantasy in that back half of the season, winning a lot of people titles, finished with only 52 receptions, but over 1,000 receiving yards. That right there is already an eye-popping stat. 60 rushing yards as well and a rushing touchdown on the ground. Finished the year with 9 total touchdowns, an absolute beast in making giant splash plays. Finished only with 217 fantasy points, 21st in the league, and 13.6 fantasy points per game. But again, this was kind of a tale of two halves, as was the majority of the Titans offense. Obviously going through that first half of the season with Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill coming on board, and then once Ryan Tannehill became the full-time starter, everything was greenlit from that point forward. So he did have one good game against Atlanta in the time with Marcus Mariota, but as you can see, a sea of red there until Tannehill takes over. And even then, it took a little while for him to begin to assert his dominance. His target count was pretty low up until the last couple games of the season. And even that game against New Orleans definitely was saved by that massive 49-yard rushing touchdown. Otherwise, Week 16 would have been kind of a nightmare for A.J. Brown owners, since that was the Super Bowl week. But showing the complete dominance against the Raiders, Texans twice, multiple games in the 20 points, had a 33.6 point gain there. So that last 4 weeks of the season, completely dominant. Now, we know that A.J. Brown was incredibly efficient with the targets that he got because he didn't get many targets, right? So he finished with only 84 targets on the season, which for a wide receiver one on the team is really low. Tajay Sharp is gone, and I guess he was technically gone most of the last year as well because he was hurt. Corey Davis is still there, but the Titans are not committed to Corey Davis long-term. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so A.J. Brown is definitely the wide receiver one on this team. And you could see, and this is typical of a lot of rookie wide receivers, they tend to not get the workload at the beginning part of the season, and as the season goes on, they get more trust with the coaching staff, get more usage. So I think that low target share is definitely something that we can kind of throw away. Now, this is not going to be a high passing volume team, and that is the other concern for A.J. Brown. The Titans are going to be a run-first team with Derrick Henry. As long as Derrick Henry is healthy and they're winning games and their defense is able to keep them from having to go into shootout mode, this is going to be a low pass volume team. But there's not really many other people to steal targets away from A.J. Brown, so I think that in the end, it's not really going to matter much for his fantasy production. Last year, he finished with 447 yards after the catch. That's 5.3 yards after catch per target, and a ridiculous 20.2 yards per reception. Absolutely insane. His true catch rate was a little bit lower than you'd like to see, 77.6%. That's only 79th at the wide receiver position, but finished with a 132.5 quarterback rating when targeted. That is number 3 in the NFL. And obviously, with those breakaway passes and just creating so much after the catch, finishes with the best production premium amongst wide receivers and number 2 at fantasy points per target. So these efficiency metrics are likely to come down. And I don't think it would be reasonable to ever project a wide receiver to hit over 20 yards per reception. So very good chance of that coming down. But if he does see a increase to his targets and his target share remains or goes up into the higher 20 percentile, or 20, 25, go up to 30% possibly, considering the lack of other real weapons on this team outside of Derrick Henry, it might not matter if his efficiency goes down because he's still going to have those breakaway passes, and he's probably going to be more valuable in standard and half PPR leagues than PPR because he's not going to push for 150 targets. It's not going to be a DeAndre Hopkins type situation unless Derrick Henry gets hurt and this team just has to completely pivot over and play a completely different style of football than they want to. So that's not something that we're projecting. So I don't think A.J. Brown is going to be the most consistent player in PPR, but The weekly upside that he gives you is phenomenal. And if you can get him as your wide receiver 2 or even your wide receiver 3, I really like the upside that he can provide. Right now, we have him projected to get 71 receptions. Again, obviously going down a little bit in that efficiency, 1,125 receiving yards and 9 total touchdowns. That puts him at about 237.5 fantasy points. Now, that's still going to put him into the wide receiver 2 range. And right now, he's going in the 4th, 5th round of a lot of drafts. So complete value pick there with the upside to really hit above this if this team does have to turn another gear in the passing game. And as I mentioned with Derrick Henry, we're going to show this picture at the end of all of our Titans videos, like the structure of the way that the Titans are building their offense. It's going to be we're going to beat you with whatever option is going to end up making the most sense that week. So between Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, and Jonnu Smith, this is a ridiculous offense in terms of just brute strength. They're going to continue to play the bully ball the way that they did last year that got them to the AFC Championship. So I really like AJ Brown a lot this year. I was nervous at first because his ADP did jump up to like the 2nd round in early parts of this year around March, but it's dropped all the way back down to the 4th, 5th round in PPR leagues. So if you can get him in round 4, I'm totally on board with that. There's a lot of other guys around him that I like as well, but I'm going to try to at least have a couple shares of AJ Brown this year because I think his upside is top 6 wide receiver, even in PPR leagues. You know, he could basically do what Tyreek Hill did a few years ago, where even though he's not going to receive the same reception total that you'd like to see from, you know, a wide receiver 1, he's not going to be like Julio Jones in the reception count, but he can definitely be there, make up for it in the yardage and the touchdown count. So that's my take on AJ Brown. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one. We're almost done with the player breakdowns and get into some strategy videos soon, and looking forward to hopefully having a season this year. So hit me up in the comment section with any questions, and we'll see you guys in the next video.